All right, so you guys really wanted to hear more about the Torrey Pines murders, and, well, let me tell you, this is a case that will really get under your skin.
Yeah, it's one of those that just sticks with you.
It does, it does. So we're going to take a deep dive into these cases
We are.
and try to uncover as much as we can.
Yeah, piece together what happened
Exactly.
in this beautiful stretch of Southern California coastline.
Right. You know, you think of Torrey Pines, you think, oh, sunshine and surf.
Idyllic California dream.
Exactly, but lurking underneath
Mm-hmm.
is this really dark mystery.
It-
Two separate murders.
Years apart.
Years apart, both brutal and both unsolved.
Unsolved, yeah. And that's what makes it so compelling.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to try to do is kind of see if we can
Yeah, explore the connections.
explore the connection, see if they're connected or not.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to take you back
Okay.
to 1978
All right.
to a seemingly idyllic summer weekend.
A classic California story.
Exactly.
Sun, surf, young love.
Yeah, 15-year-old Barbara Nantais, a cheerleader, she was dating this surfer dude, Jim Alt.
I know the name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were camping on the beach at Torrey Pines with friends while their parents were out of town.
Sounds like a pretty good time.
Yeah, typical, summer.
But it takes a dark turn.
It does.
Yeah.
The group spent the evening, hanging out in the parking lot, soaking up the beach vibes, before Jim and Barbara headed down to the sand for some privacy.
Okay, yeah.
And that's where things go dark.
That's where it gets murky.
The following morning, Barbara's body was found on the beach. She had been brutally murdered.
Oh, wow.
Jim was discovered unconscious nearby, severely beaten, but alive.
Oh, my God.
He woke up to a nightmare with no memory of the attack.
Awful.
The brutality of the attack is really disturbing.
Yeah, do we know anything about the nature of the attack, the injuries?
Well, they haven't released a lot of details,
Right.
but sources close to the investigation described it as frenzied
Oh.
and overkill, indicating a high level of rage or a potential need for control.
Yeah, or maybe both, right? It sounds very personal.
It does. And the weapon was never recovered,
Okay.
which adds another layer of complexity.
Makes it harder to track someone down if you don't know what you're looking for.
Absolutely. And, can you imagine the trauma that Jim must endured?
Oh, it's unimaginable.
Waking up, finding your girlfriend murdered
With no memory.
with no memory. Like, how do you even process that?
Right, you're already dealing with the trauma of the event itself.
Yeah.
And then the lack of memory. I mean, it's just another layer of trauma on top of it.
Like, how do you even begin to put the pieces together?
Right.
And to make matters worse, the crime scene offered very little in the way of evidence.
Oh, great.
No witnesses, no murder weapon, a boyfriend who couldn't recall the events of the night.
So the investigation hit a dead end pretty quickly.
Quickly.
Yeah, it's 1978, so you don't have the same forensic technology. We didn't have DNA profiling like we do now.
Right. They were relying heavily on eyewitness accounts.
Oh, physical evidence, good old-fashioned detective work.
Right. And in this case, it just wasn't there.
Wasn't there, which is so frustrating for investigators.
I know. They must have felt like they were hitting a wall.
Absolutely.
So the first murder at Torrey Pines remains a mystery.
It does.
But 6 years later,
Oh, no.
the unthinkable happens again.
Okay.
This time, the victim was 14-year-old Claire Huff,
Okay.
visiting the area from out of state.
Right.
Her murder, just a short distance from where Barbara was killed,
Right.
sent shockwaves through the community.
Yeah, I bet.
Another young girl, another brutal attack on this beach.
So at this point, investigators have got to be thinking there's a connection.
You would think so, right?
I mean, the similarities are too obvious to ignore.
Right.
You've got the location, the age of the victims,
On
the
brutality.
violence. It all points to a possible link.
And to me, what's so interesting
Yeah.
is that Claire wasn't local.
Right.
So if these cases are connected, that seemingly random element throws a real wrench into the investigation.
It does. It adds another layer of complexity because now you're not just looking for someone in the immediate community. You're
Right.
potentially looking for someone who travels.
Exactly. So did they have any theories?
Well, they were looking at a few different angles.
Okay.
One theory was that maybe it was a serial offender, someone who specifically targets young girls in vulnerable situations.
Someone who might have committed similar crimes in other places.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
So they were checking databases, looking for any matching patterns.
So we're left with two tragic murders,
Yeah.
both shrouded in mystery and this growing sense of fear in the community.
Understandably so. It's a beautiful beach
Yeah.
that suddenly feels very unsafe.
Like anyone could be a target.
Exactly. It makes you question everything and everyone.
And the lack of answers just adds to the anxiety.
It's
It's like a wound that never gets to heal.
right. You're constantly reminded of the tragedy.
And the fact that whoever did this is still out there.
Still out there, potentially.
It's just terrifying.
It is.
So we've laid the groundwork here, but there's so much more to uncover.
Right. We're just scratching the surface.
Join us in part 2 as we delve deeper into the investigation, examine the evidence, and explore the theories that have emerged over the years.
And hopefully get a little closer to the truth.
We'll see you there.
Welcome back, you guys, to our deep dive into the Torrey Pines murders. And last time, remember we were talking about the possibility of a connection
Right, between the two murders.
between the two murders.
And the lack of evidence.
The lack of evidence is frustrating, right?
Frustrating.
But, years passed with no significant leads.
Right.
But then, with the advent of DNA technology,
Yeah, that was a game changer.
big time, it offered a new tool in the fight for justice.
It's amazing how technology can just breathe new life into these cold cases.
It really is.
Like, what kind of breakthroughs did DNA analysis provide in these investigations?
Well, in 2012, investigators were finally able to extract a usable DNA sample from evidence in Claire Huff's case.
Oh, okay.
This was huge.
So this is where it gets interesting.
It does.
The DNA results pointed to a suspect, a former San Diego police criminalist,
Okay.
nicknamed Kinky.
Kinky.
All right.
Right.
Can you, first of all, shed some light on what a criminalist does?
Yeah. So a criminalist is basically a forensic scientist
Okay.
who analyzes physical evidence
Oh.
collected from crime scenes.
Right.
So they're looking at fingerprints, fibers, ballistics,
Oh, wow.
and of course, DNA.
So in this case, Kinky's former role as a police criminalist
Yeah,
raises some serious questions.
it does. You got to wonder.
Was he involved
Right.
in the initial investigations? Could he have used his knowledge and access to manipulate evidence?
Or cover his tracks.
It's like something out of a crime novel.
It is. It's a
A
real.
wolf in sheep's clothing.
Exactly.
But we have to remember that a DNA match doesn't necessarily equal guilt.
No, it doesn't.
Right. What are some other possible explanations for his DNA being found at the crime scene?
Well, he could have been there in his official capacity,
Okay.
right back when the crimes happened.
Right.
And maybe his DNA was inadvertently transferred.
I see.
Or maybe there's a connection we haven't uncovered yet, something
Okay.
that links him to Claire
Right.
or the crime scene without him being directly involved in the murder.
So it's just a minefield for investigators.
It is. It's like, where do you even begin?
How do you even begin to untangle a web of possibilities like this, especially when the crimes happened decades ago?
Well, you have to be meticulous, right?
Yeah.
You got to retrace his steps, scrutinize his involvement in those original investigations,
Right.
see if there are any links to the victims or the crime scenes.
It's a painstaking process,
It is.
but crucial to ensuring a fair and accurate investigation.
Absolutely. You can't afford to jump to conclusions.
So let's talk about motives.
Okay.
Did investigators have any theories about why Barbara and Claire might have been targeted?
Yeah, there are a few theories floating around.
Okay.
One line of thinking was that maybe Barbara's murder was a crime of passion.
Okay, yeah, she was dating Jim Alf.
Right, who was a popular surfer at the time.
Yeah.
So maybe there was a jealous rival.
Someone who wanted her out of the
No.
picture.
Exactly.
But wouldn't a jealous rival be more likely to target Jim?
That's a good point.
Why attack Barbara?
Yeah, it's possible they saw her as a more vulnerable target.
Right.
Or maybe the intention was to inflict pain on Jim
Okay.
by taking away someone he loved.
Oh, that's awful.
But remember, Claire's murder complicates this theory.
Right.
She wasn't local. She didn't have any connection to Jim or Barbara.
Right.
So if these cases are linked,
Yeah.
a simple love triangle scenario seems less likely.
What about the possibility of a serial killer?
Operating in the area.
Yeah.
Well, they definitely considered that. I mean, you've
Right.
got the similarities. Young female victim.
The brutality of the attacks.
The beach setting.
Right.
It all kind of points to the possibility of a serial offender.
Right. Right.
But we also got to remember there were some significant differences between the cases.
Okay.
The time gap, 6 years.
Yeah.
That's unusual for a serial killer.
Right. They typically operate.
On a more compressed time frame.
So we're left with more questions than answers.
Aren't we always?
Yeah. It feels like it with these cases.
It's true.
Two seemingly random victims
A suspect with a questionable past.
and a puzzle that spans decades.
It's a lot to unpack.
What stands out to you as the most perplexing aspect of these cases?
Honestly, it's a combination of factors, You've got the idyllic setting of Torrey Pines.
Right.
It's a place associated with beauty and tranquility.
Right.
Then you have the brutality of the crimes,
Yeah.
the lack of a clear motive, the absence of witnesses, the years of dead ends,
Right.
and then Kinky emerges, a figure who seems to embody both the potential for a solution and the deepening of the mystery.
It's like every time you think you're getting closer to the truth, it slips away.
That's like a hall of mirrors.
Let's shift our focus now to the human element of these cases.
Okay.
We know Jim Auld has spoken about the lasting trauma he endures.
Right.
Can you tell us more about the impact these crimes have had on the families of the victims?
I mean, the ripple effects are immeasurable, right?
Yeah.
Barbara's father, Ralph Nantais, he's been a vocal advocate for justice.
Right. He carries the weight of that weekend, the
Yeah,
broken promise.
to keep his daughter safe.
I can't even imagine.
He and Claire's family,
Yeah.
they've had to navigate a world where the perpetrators of these heinous crimes remain unpunished.
It's a heartbreaking reality.
It is.
To lose a child in such a horrific way, and then to have the case go unsolved for decades.
The lack of closure adds another layer of suffering.
A wound that never fully heals.
And it speaks to the enduring nature of trauma, how it can just reverberate through generations.
We'll delve deeper into the enduring mystery of the Torrey Pines murders
Yeah.
and explore the possibilities for resolution in Part 3. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Torrey Pines murders. You know, we've gone through the evidence, the theories, the human impact, and it all comes back to this, this one question.
It's a question that's haunted investigators for decades.
Right, like who committed these acts and why?
And will we ever truly know?
It's a mystery that just won't let go.
It doesn't. And it makes you wonder about all the other cold cases out there.
The ones that haven't gotten the attention that this one has.
Exactly.
We've discussed Kinky quite a bit.
His involvement is certainly intriguing.
It is. But even with his DNA at the scene, there's still so many questions.
Right. It's a piece of the puzzle, but it doesn't complete the picture.
So what do you make of his connection to all of this?
It's hard to say for sure, Could he be the perpetrator? Sure, it's possible. But it's also possible he was just there in his official capacity as a criminalist.
Right. Like a coincidence.
Or maybe there's a connection we haven't even considered yet.
It's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
And some pieces that might not even belong.
It makes you wonder if they're looking at other cold cases he might be connected to.
I would imagine they are, especially with the DNA evidence.
It's like peeling back layers of an onion.
And who knows what you'll find at the center.
So we've got this beautiful place, Torrey Pines.
A place where people go to escape, to relax.
Yeah, and then you have these brutal acts of violence.
It shatters the illusion of safety.
Right, makes you realize that darkness can lurk anywhere.
It's a reminder that evil doesn't discriminate.
It really makes you question your assumptions about safety and security.
Because if it can happen in a place like Torrey Pines, it can happen anywhere.
It's like a crack in the facade of paradise.
A glimpse into the underbelly of human nature.
So even with all the darkness, is there still hope that these cases will ever be solved?
I think there's always hope.
Oh, it
Advancements in technology, the dedication of investigators.
just takes one breakthrough.
One new piece of evidence, one witness coming forward.
That could change everything.
And even if these cases are never definitively solved, the search for truth and justice should never stop.
It's important to remember the victims, their families, and the impact these crimes have had on the community.
Their stories deserve to be told, and their memories honored.
So where do we go from here?
Well, we've presented the facts, the theories, the different perspectives.
Now it's up to you, the listener, to draw your own conclusions.
Do you think these cases are connected?
Was Kinky involved?
What details stand out to you?
We encourage you to do your own research. Dive deeper into the available information.
Read the news articles, watch the documentaries, listen to the podcasts.
And come to your own understanding of this complex and haunting case.
Because sometimes the journey for answers is just as important as the destination.
That's a great point. And on that note, I want to thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the Torrey Pines murders.
It's been a journey.
It has. And remember, even in the most beautiful places, darkness can lurk.
And the search for truth is an ongoing process.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the memory of Barbara and Claire alive.